Okay, in this recording, we're just going to read some pages together in your book beginning on page 85. We already heard about, how Jerry's going to add more files to his website. And if you take a look at figure 214 on page 86, you can see that in the Cam Shots folder, which is his website folder, he is going to have all the pages, some tips, a glossary folder, articles, and then also in the Cam Shots folder, he is going to have images, video, and index. Okay, everything for every website needs to be in the same folder so that the web browsers know where to find the information. So, top of page 87. There's a tip. To make your website easier to maintain, organize your folders to match the organization of the pages on the website and group images and other media files within your folders separate from your HTML files. So like have the pages in one file and have the images in one file and the videos in one file, just like it's shown on page 86. By the way, the index.html file, that is what you typically name the home page of almost every website. You name it index.htm. So take a look at the page 87. Absolute path specifies a file's precise location within the entire folder structure of a computer. Absolute paths employ the syntax look in folder 1, inside folder 1 find folder 2, inside folder 2 find folder 3, and then inside folder 3 you'll find the file. That's how you read that. So absolute paths, there's some examples there. You got cam shots, pages, tips, tips1.htm, and the interpretation of that is the tips1.htm file is located in the pages/tips subfolder. Okay, and so that's how that's read. If files are located on different drives as well as in different folders, you must include the drive letter in the path. And this gets kind of confusing, but we'll just keep it, everything in one file for every website. Cam Shots is this website, so everything is inside the Cam Shots folder. Relative paths, when many folders and subfolders are involved, absolute paths can be cumbersome and confusing to use. For this reason, most web designers prefer to use relative paths. A relative path specifies a file's location in relation to the location of the current document. If the file is in the same location as the current document, the relative path is simply the file name. If the file is in a subfolder of the current document, include the name of the subfolder without the / as follows, where folder is the name of the subfolder, which is also known as a child folder. Okay, note that folders used in relative paths are often referenced using relative names such as parent, child, sibling, and so forth. So, for example, go down farther the folder tree to other subfolders, include those folder names in the relative path. Looks pretty similar to an absolute path. Okay, page 88. So relative paths, so if you, from the Cam Shots Pages Tips subfolder, it might just be mentioned as tips1.htm, the tips1.htm file located in the current folder. Okay. You should almost always use relative links in your links. If you have to move your files to a different computer or server, you can move the entire folder structure without having to edit the relative paths you've created. If you use absolute paths, you will probably have to revise each link to reflect the new location on the folder tree on the computer. Okay, setting the base path. As you've seen, a browser resolves relative paths based on the location of the current document. You can change this behavior by using the base element to specify a different starting location for all relative paths. The base element has the syntax base href equals and then the path, where path is the folder location that you want the browser to use when resolving relative paths in the current document. The base element must be nested within the head element of the HTML file so it can be applied to all hypertext links found within the document. And there they show you there's a reference on how to use the element. It says the base element is useful when a single document is moved to a new folder. Rather than rewriting all of the relative paths to reflect the document's new location, the base element redirects browsers to the document's old location, allowing any relative paths to be resolved. Okay, problem solving, managing your website. Websites can quickly grow from a couple of pages to dozens or hundreds of pages. As the size of a site increases, it becomes more difficult to get a clear picture of the site's structure and content. Image deleting or moving a file in a website that contains dozens of folders and hundreds of files. Could you easily project the effect of this change? Would all of your hypertext links still work after you moved or deleted a file? To effectively manage a website, you should follow a few important rules. The first is to be consistent in how you structure the site. If you decide to collect all image files in one folder, you should continue that practice as you add more pages and images. Websites are more likely to break down if files and folders are scattered throughout the server without a consistent rule or pattern. Decide on a structure early and stick with it. The second rule is to create a folder structure that matches the structure of the website itself. If the folders can be easily categorized into different groups, those groupings should also be reflected in the groupings of the subfolders. The names you assign to your files and folders should also reflect their uses on the website. This makes it easier for you to predict how modifying a file or folder might impact the other pages on the site. Finally, you should document your work by adding comments to each new web page. Comments are useful not only for colleagues who may be working on the site, but also for the author who must revisit those files months or even years after creating them. The comments should include the page's file name and location, the page's author and the date of the page was initially created, a list of any supporting files used in the document, such as image and audio files, a list of the files that link to the page and their locations, a list of the files that the page links to and their locations. By following these rules, you can reduce a lot of headaches associated with maintaining a large and complicated site. So let's put this to good use. Jerry has studied the navigation list you created and would like you to add another navigation list to the glossary page. Recall that the glossary page contains a list of digital photography terms. The page is very long. He'd like you to create a navigation list containing the letters A through Z. And from this list, Jerry wants to give users the ability to jump to a specified section by just clicking a letter. Okay? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to the glossary.html file. Okay, so we're in the glossary.html file. Okay, and we're going to scroll down to the section element. Right down here. And directly below the H1 glossary heading, right here, insert the following navigation list. Okay, and so I'm going to space over a little bit. And right about here, go nav, enter, and then the bracket, A, bracket, space, bracket, B. I'm going to pause this while I type. Okay, so that took a little while to type all that in. So we have all the text in. Now we're at the top page 91, marking locations with the ID attribute. To enable users to jump to a specific location within a document, you first need to mark that location. One way of doing this is to add the ID attribute to an element at that location in the document. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this now. Bottom of page 91. We're going to scroll down the file and locate the H2 heading for the letter A, right here. Within the opening H2 tag, right here, we're going to insert ID equals A. Oops, capital A. ID equals A with the quotes around it like that. Okay. And now locate the H2 heading for B. And we're going to do the same thing. ID equals B. Okay. just as shown there on page 92. And we're going to keep doing this for all the letters, so I will pause and type. You should do the same. Okay, when you're done through the letter F, we're going to go back up to the glossary, to scroll up to the file in my text editor and locate the header element. Okay, right here. Insert the following attribute within the opening header tag, right here. ID equals top. Okay. Now we're going to link to the IDs. All right. We're going to locate the letter A in the list of letters at the top of the glossary file right here. Okay. And after the opening character tag right here, we are going to type in A href equals A, because that's the name of the ID location. And then after the A, then we have to close that. Okay, so that's how that looks. And you're going to need to do the same thing for all the other letters, just like at the bottom of page 93. I'll pause and do that. You should do the same. Okay, so I just got all that typed. That was really fun. Jerry also wants you to create a hypertext link at the bottom of the file that points to the top. You'll use the ID attribute to create you created in the last list of steps. So scroll to the bottom of the file and locate the text return to top right here. Okay, and we're going to put that tag in there, and I'm going to pause the video while I do that. Okay, so the opening href goes here, and then the closing one goes right after the word top. Now we're going to save the files, Control S, and we're going to go ahead and preview this. And now we should be able to click A, and it should take us to A, or not. Let's try E. Okay, I'm going to pause for a second. Okay, you guys probably caught my error. Here's where the error was. I had failed to put the pound sign in when I was typing all that out. So every time you reference a spot, a bookmark location, you have to have the pound sign in front of the word. So I did that. I did a Control S to save it. Now I'm going to refresh my browser, and now when I click on F, it takes me to F. And when I click on Return to Top, it takes me to the top. Go ahead and read page 95 at the top.